Hi, is this Miss Moylan?
Oh, yes, it is. Is this Manny?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Manny. I'm so glad we finally connected.
So am I.
Yeah, how can I help you? It sounds like a really cool project you're working on.
Yeah, the Take Action Project. So, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, and for my project, I thought it would make it a little bit stronger if we got some answers from a real expert on adolescent depression, or just depression
Cool.
itself.
Yeah, that's definitely something I work on with my clients, and I work with a lot of adolescents. So hopefully I can give you some good information.
All right. So this is my first question. Why do many teens suffer from depression, and how do they get it?
Ooh, okay. So there's kind of the scientific question, and that is during the time of adolescence, the brain is going through a whole nother phase of development. And if you kind of think of it kind of like the brain is kind of, it's kind of coming online again. So what it's doing is it's fine-tuning all of the really cool things that make the connections in the brain called the synapses, and it's just kind of like pruning all those areas so that the brain can be very, very much more kind of in tune and fine-tuned. But what happens sometimes is it makes the brain kind of go, what is going on here? And it creates kind of, for some kids, it can create some challenges in how the nerves in the brain are communicating with each other. And so sometimes what happens is those neurons don't communicate well, and so it will create a lack of chemicals that the brain needs to feel good, and that's when the symptoms of depression start for people. So it's like the brain is trying to be as efficient as possible, but something's happening where those connections just aren't being made because of that developmental process.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
It does.
That's kind of a scientific answer. The other thing that starts to happen in adolescence is kids just start to become much more aware of themselves and much more aware of, social things, and start thinking about, like, what am I going to do with my life? And sometimes that can create anxiety and stress. And so sometimes with stress and anxiety, it makes people's moods drop, and it makes them kind of nervous and kind of sad about those kinds of things they're thinking a lot about.
What is like the main symptom of depression that you could tell right off the bat that this person could be severely depressed?
So I mean, the one that we see the most in the media, and your friends are probably talking about that show called 13 Reasons Why, but that's kind of a big one where people feel so down and depressed that they don't want to live anymore, and so they have thoughts about harming themselves or wanting to end their lives. So that suicidal thought.
Yeah.
Other things that people start feeling is like they're kind of helpless or worthless. Not a lot of hope in terms of thinking about the future. Things that they used to enjoy, like maybe playing video games, hanging out with friends, they've kind of lost the enjoyment of those things. So those things just feel kind of dull and like not so much fun anymore.
Yeah.
And sometimes people that are depressed have a hard time concentrating and focusing on things like schoolwork and, even a conversation sometimes. So sometimes when a client comes and sees me and they're really depressed, I'll be talking to them like, are you catching any of what I'm saying? And they're like, no, I can't focus on what you're saying right now. So concentration and memory can sometimes be a big sign of depression.
So why was the reason that you chose to study depression, and why is it important to you?
So I chose to study depression because I feel that people that are suffering from those conditions need someone to talk to kind of help them think through those situations and think of better ways to manage them. And so my job is really about guiding people and helping them to manage those symptoms so that they don't take over their lives and, don't end their lives. So I really like working with people in that way and just helping them through like a really tough time in their lives and giving them some new tools. Oftentimes I'll say tools because it's really are like skills or things that you need just to kind of get you through a rough patch. So that's why I decided to do what I do. And I really feel that, kids sometimes aren't always comfortable talking to their parents about these things, or maybe even their friends sometimes. So having a therapist like me, it can just be a safe place to talk about things that are causing their depression.
Uh, aren't girls more likely to talk about their feelings than boys?
Say that one more time.
Aren't girls more likely to talk about if they're depressed or not than
Their
a boy?
feelings and boys. Sometimes, it depends on the person. Sometimes I have girls that won't even talk to me about their feelings, and so it really kind of just depends on the kid. I think girls are in general a little bit more emotional than boys, so maybe it might make it a little easier. And sometimes the way our society is, it's like girls are more emotional and boys kind of stuff it in. But I know a lot of boys that that can kind of talk about those things as well. So, but I think in general, yes, maybe more girls than boys might talk about those things. So, but I try to encourage the boys that I'm working with to be real and to be honest about what's really going on inside. Yeah.
What are the medications that are used for depression?
There's a lot of different medications, and so I'm not a doctor, like a medical doctor, so I don't prescribe medications to my patients. As a therapist, I work with a lot of doctors or psychiatrists that do that. So some of the common ones that I know about are for kids. I'm trying to think now, like Prozac or Effexor. There is. I'm going blank right now. Trying to think now. Zyprexa sometimes used for kids, or Abilify.
Like electric shock therapy, regular therapy.
Yeah, so I do talk therapy, and then my clients will go see a psychiatrist, and they'll talk with the psychiatrist, of course, but also get medication. So there's classifications of medications for depression. They're called antidepressants, and there's different kind of classifications underneath that kind of latch on to different parts of the brain. Remember how I was saying, the brain's kind of trying to make all these communications happen. So the medications, what they do is they help they kind of give the brain a boost so it's able to make those connections happen.
All right. Can depression be prevented?
I don't know about that question. I think what can happen is we can prevent depression from really having a major impact on somebody's life. I don't know if we can stop I don't know if we can stop depression. I think our bodies are just kind of wired to kind of go through mood changes. But I think that the really significant or severe kind of symptoms of depression can definitely be managed, and it's treatable. There is no cure for depression right now that we know of, but we know that you can treat the condition with good medications and kind of therapies and all those things.
So this goes back to the question on how I asked you why depression is important to you, and UCLA did a study, and the rate of depression has tripled since 1960.
Yeah, it has. It has, and I think, a lot of times what we have to look at is what's going on around us in our communities, in our homes, in our environments, and what people are getting, through social media, what they're, getting at schools versus kind of how the brain is naturally wired, right? So that's the nature versus the nurture, which is a big kind of psychology concept, that it basically means how our environment interacts with our own genetics or biology. And I think over the last, like you said, 50 years, there's been a lot of changes in that. And so people are kind of trying to make sense of that. And sometimes what happens is it brings on those symptoms of depression. Yeah.
All right. And one last question. So I will be presenting this in front of my school. And I know that there will be some people in my class that are depressed. And what advice do you have for them so they could hear?
The most important thing I think will be helpful to share with them is that if you are experiencing these symptoms and they're really having an impact on your life, in other words, you're noticing you're not going out anymore, you're not talking with friends anymore, or you're just, not being able to stay focused in school anymore, you need to talk to somebody about this and be honest with the school counselor or someone, that you trust, so that you can get the help that will make these things, not so hard for you anymore and have such an impact on your life. Because the sooner you can start getting treatment for this, the more you're protecting your future. So I'm all about what's called early intervention, and that is just starting to work on these things early so that it doesn't, just make your life really difficult in the future. So you think that'd be a good thing to tell your friends?
Yes, it would. And
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you because I sent an email to about 14 therapists. You were the only one that replied right off the bat.
Oh, well, I am just so happy to help. I love to just share information I have and connect with people, especially in your age group. I think you're doing a really great thing by bringing this message to your school nanny. It's probably going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. I'm really proud of you for doing this stuff. So keep up the great work. Maybe you're a budding therapist someday yourself, huh?
All right. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Moylan.
You're so welcome. Good luck, and have a good time putting this together. It's going to be a really great thing, all right?
All right.
And enjoy your summer. It's probably coming up soon, huh?
Yeah, it is. I will. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.